What's up, everyone? It's Doug the Dog Guy, and I am here with my friend Shannon Hendon. She is the owner and founder of Ocala Pet Sitting, and we are here for our fourth episode of Pet Sitter Stories. Shannon has a really cool story for us, so I'm so excited to talk to you today, Shannon. Tell us a little bit about you and your business to get us started.
Hi Doug. I'm so excited to talk to you again and see you as always. So like you said, my name is Shannon Hendon, and I'm the founder of Ocala Pet Sitting. And for those that don't know, Ocala, Florida is just about an hour and a half north of Orlando area. And this is my 19th year in business. So getting
Wow,
close to that 20. Yeah,
that's amazing.
thanks. Yeah, it's crazy, right? And we are a cat specialized business now, birds and small critters too. But today's story will be about dogs because I think it's an important story to share. But cats are my thing these days. And I also organize a local network for pet business owners, which I'm really passionate about. And I'm the vice president of the Florida Pet Services Association, which, as we know, Doug, you're one of the founders of. So I'm really, excited to keep that going. And I'm looking forward to this year's summit as well. And I get to see you.
That's awesome. That's a heck of a resume, Shannon. 19 years and you've
Yeah.
managed to specialize in cats and you're running these networks. It's just so inspiring.
Oh, thanks, Doug. It led, over the years, you just have to keep evolving, right? And I'm one of those that the year 2020 taught me a lot, and I learned it was time for a shift, and cats are my passion now. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get into your story in just a second, but I want to ask, like, what was that like deciding to really niche down into cats and kind of making that transition?
Well, it was kind of a slow realization because even though I grew up with like all animals, I'm always would say I was a dog person, like if you had to pick, right? But over time with the pet sitting, I met so many cats that I got to see more of their personalities because I kind of thought that all cats were maybe skittish or weren't super loving from my experiences. So, you know, pet sitting thousands of cats literally taught me that's not true. And I fell more in love with them. And they really interested me as far as like learning more. I'm a learner forever and learning more about their, behaviors and stuff. And I kept hearing from clients, so many compliments about the cat sitting stuff. So it just started to dawn on me that, hey, maybe this is like become my thing. And also, I noticed I loved running the business side of the cat sitting. And,
Yeah.
I'm getting older. So the late nights and early mornings was wearing on me. Even with a team, I always have to fill in and all of that. So it really was. I went to a conference actually and heard other people were doing it. And I just got inspired, like, not to be afraid and just take that leap. So it's been a few years now that I've really done it. And also, the networking goes along with that because now that I've established like a wonderful network, I feel really good about giving them the dog clients. Um,
That's
so I
great.
may not have been able to do that, as confidently if I didn't have them.
Yeah, that's really incredible. That's something that
Yeah.
I mean, I'm Doug the dog guy, so
Yeah.
no questions about that. But the longer that I've pet sat and the more experience I've had with cats, I love them. I've grown to really love cats and just to understand them better and to understand their needs better. And I do
Mhm.
think that what cats actually need, especially on like a mental and emotional level, it can be really misunderstood by a lot of people. So I love that you've niched down into this and that you're just so passionate about it.
Yeah, completely. That's what I realized too. And um, as well as being, someone that loves to learn, I like to educate, and mentor others. And I just feel like it's my passion to help not only, my clients, but just the general public, and other sitters to know how important it is to provide enrichment for cats. And my thing has always been like, we don't do a feed and run. We don't
Yeah,
just feed a cat and run, even if they're shy. So,
that's
yeah, it's
great.
important. Mhm.
That's great. And if anybody's curious about kind of this networking that Shannon is talking about, Shannon and I actually recorded a video together at the Pet Sitter World Conference last year in North Carolina. I will link that down in the description below, where we actually talked about your network and about how you built that. And like I said a minute ago, it's truly inspiring everything that you're doing.
Thanks, I love it. Yeah. Conferences and all my pet sitter friends, like, they literally saved my life and helped me with my business in so many ways, so I love to give back, and now I mentor the young ones that are coming up, so I think it's great.
So cool. So cool. So, everybody that's watching, we'll get into Shannon's story here right after you hit that subscribe button down below. And if you have a story that you would like to share, please shoot me an email at doug@badtothebonepetcare.com with just a couple quick bullet points about the story and the experience that you had, and then the lesson that we can all pull from that. The real goal with this Pet Sitter Stories series that I'm doing here is to really show all of you guys that we are not alone. We are in this together, and there are other pet sitters out there who are experiencing some of what you are going through right now. So with that, hit that subscribe button. And Shannon, tell us what you went through and what you learned from that.
Okay, so this was about my 5th year in business, and at that time, I pet sit everything, cows, chickens, dogs, and I had a, potential client go and meet him. He has a dog, and it was a German Shepherd, and he was a really nice guy. And when I get there, he brings the dog out of an outdoor kennel that's attached to his house, like right near the patio. Um, I was a little uneasy about the kennel thing, but being a
Yeah.
younger pet sitter, I let that go. So we're going to take the dog on a walk. We walk around a lake, and I'm asking him lots of questions. Well, 5 years in business, I was very confident walking dogs. I was experienced with anxious dogs and, even some protection dogs. I wasn't an expert, but, I was good at it. And so he handed me the leash, and I continued on with the walk, and it went well. Um, he told me the dog was trained like a police dog. He couldn't really expand on that. He didn't say it was a former police dog. And, we've had a few of those where you're like, okay, is it really like, some guys want to be like, oh, my dog, right? And
I
so,
have little flags popping up in my mind as you talk.
right, right. And I looking back, I did have feel the flags, but at that time, I want to stress, like, I really never said no. And this is one of the experiences that I share with a lot of sitters because so he he was the gentleman also mentioned to me that his wife was uncomfortable around the dog, and so he stayed in the kennel when the guy wasn't home, but otherwise he came in the house and he was a house dog. Because at that time I really didn't take outside dogs, but he kind of convinced me and eased my mind that the dog did come in the house and he was a family dog. They had a child. He didn't mention anything about that. So I kind of maybe dismissed it that the wife was maybe just not a confident dog walker because he was saying, you have to be confident with this dog. Well, we could take that to mean a lot of things, right?
Right.
So I said yes. And it was a short weekend, thank goodness. Um, when I showed up, he was in the kennel, and I had to pass the kennel. And it was a narrow way to go into the patio to get the key. And the dog was going, he was like at a 9 or 10
Mm.
in there. I I would open the kennel, put the collar lead on him, and take him without looking into him in the eyes. I knew enough to do that kind of thing. And once I had him out on leash, he was fine. He was great on lead. We had a great walk. But when I would put him back in the kennel, the anxious nerves would start with him again. And I even remember reminding myself, like, breathe, calm energy. I was like mentally doing this. So, I know he can feel it through the leash. And I was doing that. And I wasn't truly fearful, but I was a bit anxious and on guard watching him, right?
Yeah.
I thought that eventually, which was my experience with other dogs, not this situation, but other dogs that were anxious, they would usually warm up to me by a few visits. And, I thought, okay, he doesn't know me, it will get better. Well, it didn't. And the last visit, I was a bit fearful because he was like going at that kennel real bad. And I got him on leash, a good walk. We came back, and something just told me to hold the collar while I was taking off the other harness
Hmm.
and stuff. And as soon as the clip went, he lunged at my face.
Oh no.
Yeah. And thank God I had my other hand on his collar because I pulled him down, right? And pulled him away
Wow.
from me. And pulling him down like that, confidently, he stopped. I got the, I don't even, it was a blur after that. I got out of that
Wow.
kennel. The thing was, this terrible situation. I had to be in the kennel with him to hook him up.
Oh
So I
no.
was locked in that kennel with him. I had no
No.
area to put him into. I got out of there so fast, and my heart was racing. I almost had a heart attack. And at the time, I wasn't on Facebook groups or anything. This is like 13, 14 years ago. And I had no mentors, nothing. I was on my own. But I was terrified. And I was like, what did I get myself into? Like, and lately hearing the stories of other pet sitters getting mauled, like, I literally came that close. If I had not had my hand on his collar, he would have tore my face off, if not more.
Wow.
Um, because if I wouldn't have had control of him, it could have just been a bloodbath, really. Like,
Yeah.
so frightening. Even to this day, I had his name on a list, and I was like, the first thing I thought after was like, definitely, I'm never coming back here again, right? But then I thought, well, what if he calls the next pet sitter?
Yeah.
Like, so that, like, honestly, that's probably one of the things that got me into some networking was that I wanted to be able to have some way, like, is there a way to warn people? I don't know.
Yeah.
So you could see there was a lot of red flags there, right?
Oh man, there's a
And
lot to unpack here. There's a lot
right,
that I want to dig into. Tell me,
right.
tell me kind of what happened next in this story. How did you approach the client about this and the conversation that followed?
Yeah, I mean, I let them know what happened. I told them that they should not be hiring a pet sitter. The dog needs training. Like, I told them a lot of things, but I didn't think he would listen. He did know that he needed to pick somebody who had confidence and could handle the dog, but that that wasn't me. Thank goodness it wasn't a newer sitter or someone who didn't have any experience with
Yeah.
dog body language because I'm really good at reading the energy and seeing the signs. But even still, I learned you shouldn't put yourself in that situation, right?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm so glad that you're okay and that
Yeah.
everything turned out as best that it could. I mean,
Hmm.
wow, there's a lot of lessons in this story for all of
Hmm.
us. I think kind
Nobody
of,
knew where I was at. Nobody knew I was there.
oh no.
You
Wow.
know, like it could have
Wow.
been your worst nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go all the way back to the meet and greet here. I mean,
Okay.
as you were talking, one thing that really stood out to me is that you said that the wife wasn't comfortable with the dog.
Hmm.
That there was a couple other red flags, I think, in the meet and greet
Yeah.
with the crate situation, the kennel, all that
Mhm.
is not ideal. But to know that the wife isn't comfortable with the dog, I think that says a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And, he was dismissing it like she just wasn't comfortable with dogs. And I have met people like that. So in
Yeah,
my mind, I let that go,
yeah,
which I know now I shouldn't have at all. Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
Oh man,
I,
anytime I have a client say that anyone is not fully comfortable with the dog, I immediately hit the pause button and say,
right.
"Why? What's the story here? There has to be more to the story." And maybe it
Hmm.
is just that they had a bad incident when they were a kid or something, and they don't like any
Hmm.
dogs now. That happens, but more often than not, there's more to the story. Tell us more
Yeah.
about this kennel situation too. I've had a couple clients with similar kennel situations in the very beginning, and I also had to kind of learn the hard way on that. So tell us what we should be looking for there too.
So, yeah, I mean, in general, I knew that I had pretty high standards and I didn't want to take, breeding dogs or dogs that lived outside in kennels. And this was a very large kennel, I'll say that. So, and it was, up against the house. And like I said, he was reassuring me that the dog came in the house because I did ask him more than once, to get him to expand on that. And now I would have, dove even deeper, or probably run from the beginning. But
Yeah.
yeah, like now I just, if they can't live with the family, they're just not for us.
Right. I agree. I agree. I don't take any clients anymore where the dog doesn't live in the home with the family. They have to have that one-on-one relationship with humans, with people in general, and if they're not used to that on a daily basis and then all of a sudden they have a new person coming in,
Hmm.
that's a recipe for a bad situation. And not to mention, we're both in Florida. Having a dog just outside all day in Florida heat, that's a
Yeah.
whole other problem in and of itself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that he said the dog went with him to work or something like that. He let me know the dog wasn't there all the time. Now I wouldn't believe that, but he kind of smoothed it. But he also wanted, he also cared a lot that I could handle the dog and, you know, I should have read his nervousness with me,
Yeah,
you know. Who
yeah.
knows what happened before that? It could have been another sitter. I'll never know.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Anytime we have a new client sign up that is being, we love it when clients are extra cautious and extra
Mhm.
vigilant. Like that's a good thing in one hand, but if they're being anxious with us, and that's kind of different. That's different from being vigilant. Um,
Right.
the fact that this guy said that the dog had something like police training but couldn't expand on that was also a red flag for me. Is I mean, as we know, the protection dog service and training for protection type dogs and police type dogs is super intensive and can be very expensive, if someone is to get that done privately. So that is something that they should be able to expand on.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I didn't really believe him that it was a full, like, police training. It seemed more like he was using it as like a bragging thing and it wasn't full on. My dad was a police officer when I was young, and we would handle the puppies before they went to the canine school. And so I thought, okay, a police trained dog, is going to have, some manners and stuff, which he did. But like you said, the whole recipe, the whole thing was not right. Um,
Yeah.
and
I think this is like a perfect example of how any one of these things on their own may not
mhm.
be a red flag, but when are really paying attention to the whole scenario and situation and you add up each of these flags, that's when you know you really have an issue. And I think that's something I see a lot in the Facebook groups, the pet sitter and dog walker Facebook groups, is someone will outline a situation and then ask for advice on how to deal with it. And I'm always thinking to myself, well, what's the rest of the story? There has to be more context. Yes, this may be a bad red flag or it may be a good green flag, but without the
Mhm.
rest of the story, we can't make a fully informed decision.
Yeah, and the other thing too, and if I see one of those where I get that like feeling, I immediately think of that dog, and I'll be the first one to say, just say no. Like, it is not worth it. And I've had to do a lot of, inner work thinking, like, why do I always say yes? What is it like? So anything that makes me uncomfortable or you uncomfortable, that's okay to say no. And I was formerly of the type that was like, I'll say yes to anything, but I think it's not necessarily I was a people pleaser, more as like I saw it as a little bit of a challenge, which I like a challenge, and I wouldn't have named it as that, but I figured out that's what it is. um, I like to learn from a challenge, I guess you could say. Saying no is so important, but, I really discovered that the reason I was not saying no is either I wanted to prove myself to the client. Why?
Yeah.
That sounds so dumb, right? Like, I could
Oh,
so
I've
say to
been
myself,
there.
"No, I don't have anything to prove." But, it's like a challenge. I wanna prove it, and I don't wanna be the one to say no. I don't wanna disappoint them. The other thing was when I was in person with him, even to this day, I have a hard time saying no in person.
Yeah.
And then then I would commit, say, "Yeah, I'll do it this weekend or next weekend." Then I can't go back on a promise. So then I
Yep.
would put myself in this situation where, it would have been better if I could just say, "I'll think on it and let you know." 'Cause then I
Yeah.
could go home and process it, myself, and maybe discuss with my husband or a friend or somebody at that time. Obviously, now I'd be on there my friends and you'd be like, "What do I
Yeah.
do?" You know? Um, but yeah, I was the typical, like, I can't say no to this guy, and I totally regret it, but it led to me having this, story that I could tell other sitters. And I eventually did find a network and put his name out there. Just if anybody gets a call on this dog, just don't do it, you know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
don't.
I love that
Um,
you talked about kind of proving yourself to the client and taking on a challenge. That was something that I was notorious for my first
mm,
couple of years in business. I kind of prided myself on being the pet sitter that for the more challenging dogs, and I
mhm,
loved being able to win over an anxious dog, and I still do. But I took
Mhm.
on a lot of clients in the beginning, kind of with that mindset of like, I'm going to prove to myself that I can win over this dog. And I'm going to prove to the client that I'm the only pet sitter around that can handle a dog like this. And it put me in situations that I should have never been in. And what I learned kind of looking back on those situations is that what did I actually gain out of proving that to myself or the client? I got nothing out of that except some really anxiety inducing situations that I should have never been in to begin with. Um,
Yeah, and
now,
the other thing is that, we talk about burnout and stuff a lot. Well, if you're
yeah,
saying yes to all of these, right, that's definitely contributing to burnout, you know.
yes,
Uh, And even, if you have one that's not to this scale that I did, like just start saying no, 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 you know.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
okay to say no. It's okay to prioritize yourself and your safety. And what I really learned was through, years of illnesses and sprained ankles and all these things, like, whoa, if I'm hurt, what happens to the rest of my clients? It's not fair to them either
right,
that I put myself. So maybe, as a pet sitter that doesn't want to say no, think about the rest of your clients. Say yes to them by not putting yourself in a dangerous situation, or even if it's not dangerous, just plain situation that's going to stress you out. Could
yeah,
be, we have now where medicated cats, it's like they have to be a certain temperament for us to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to be so stressed. It's just not worth it, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
why are we small business owners if we're not enjoying our work? That's the whole point.
exactly,
That's the whole reason we wanted to work with animals to begin with.
right,
So that's all the things that I've told to myself over and over in the years to make it easier to say no.
yeah,
I still have to have like a VA now call people to say
yeah,
no, to help me say no. But if you can just start working on that and make strategies, like when I learned I can't say no in person, what way can you do it different?
That's great. That's great. I keep a sticky note on my office wall over here that says every yes equals 1,000 no's. So when you
Nice.
like it's so easy for us to say yes, and it's so difficult for us to say no. But when you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. It's all about that opportunity cost, and kind of reframing how I think of it in that way has made it a lot easier for me to say no when needed. But just like you, I cannot say no to somebody in person. I mean, I just can't do it. I am a people pleaser. I want
I know,
everybody to
I
be
know,
happy.
I know, I recognize it. Okay.
But
And
yeah,
it's
so
great, the kindness and everything is wonderful for our business, but it can also hurt you in so many ways, you
yeah.
know?
But you've
And go
created a
ahead.
great strategy where like you have this VA that can call people, or you know that
Mm,
like you can just tell them in the meet and greet, "Hey, I'm going to need to think about this." And then you can go run
mhm,
it by some friends and some of your colleagues and then send them a message, and then you've built these other relationships with trainers and other pet care
mhm.
providers that have other skill sets and other types of ideal clients where just because you're telling someone no, you don't necessarily have to leave them stranded. You can refer them to a dog trainer that can help with these behaviors and all of these other things.
Absolutely, now that I have pretty wide extended network, I would have had other options for him. I know trainers that, work with these type of dogs, and some of them might offer, boarding and stuff that he would have been much better suited for. Um, you know, and one of the things I've done too is create test visits And I
Yes.
require test visits for so many things. I first started it with a cat that I had trouble giving insulin to one time. And he was one of those, I gave it to him the first time, but after that, it was a no. He was literally at the
Oh.
door on a table ready to kill me when I came in.
Oh.
So, poor baby.
Oh.
Um, his parents came home and I felt terrible that I let them down, but then I reframe it. How can we do better? So when it comes to walks or anxious dogs, maybe they're just a little anxious. You need to put them on leash. Test visit.
Yeah.
And I find that every time, I don't know about you, Doug, but every time I tell the clients, let's do some test visits, they're like, yes, it's
Yep.
wonderful. We're willing to do that. That's amazing. You would even think of that.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Clients love it. I don't think I've
they
ever
do.
had a client say no to a trial visit. I mean, they really do love it.
It's true. I've never had one say no either, because at that point, they're invested in us in some way and trusting us and seeing us as the expert, which we are, and we should be able to say, I'm not comfortable. Let's try this and see how it goes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Another
Mhm.
lesson that I think we can all pull from your story here is that we can never let our guard down. You said this was the last visit that this happened. You had done other visits without an incident, but it was this last visit, and you had a gut feeling to not take your hand off of that collar. And I think that's so important for us to all remember is just because the last visit went well, that doesn't mean that the dog is going to be okay at the next visit. We have to be on our P's and Q's and paying attention to their body language and the cues that they're giving us. And we have to pay attention to our own energy and what we're emitting and what the dog's picking up on from us and be ready. I mean, that was something that like you were ready and prepared. And if you weren't, it would have been a very different story.
Yeah, and the weird thing was it was literally like like a voice. And I had not done that with my hand the other visits.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so, really trusting your gut. Talk
Yeah.
about it, like, it literally saved me then. And other times I didn't listen before then.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I listened. I listened right at the right moment. Woo!
Yeah, yeah. Well, and this is why it's so important to understand dog body language as pet sitters and dog walkers too. I mean, I know a lot of people get into pet sitting and dog walking and they think, oh, I understand dog body language. If a dog's tail wags, he's happy to see me. There's a lot
Mhm,
more to it than that. There are different types of wags. There's different, you watch their hackles, you watch their ears, you watch their
mhm.
eyes. There's so many things to pay attention to that. I mean, if you're a newer pet sitter or dog walker watching this and you're just going off of the experience that you maybe had as a kid, go talk to a local dog trainer. Go watch YouTube videos. I mean, there's a plethora of free content online where you can really educate yourself on cat body language, dog body language, and all of the things in between. And I think it is vital for us as professionals to really understand these things.
Definitely. He wasn't growling, he was quiet, he was I would make him sit, but he had a little bit of look in his eyes.
Yeah.
And, I don't remember if his hackles went up necessarily, but I just, so it just told me like something's off, maybe. And I wasn't holding him tight either. I just kind of had like a few fingers, like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe, you know, but what a huge
Yeah.
lesson. And even though I'm not, doing a lot of dog walking or dog care anymore. I just felt like, I could come on here and tell a cat story, but this one was so monumental in my
Yeah.
life and career and everything that, I also want to say if you're doing these visits and one or two visits in, you feel like anxious, which I was, it's okay to stop and say, y'all either need to have, come home or have an emergency thing because I stuck it out.
Mm,
Again, not wanting to let the client down or maybe feeling like I'm a failure if I don't finish this. All of those things, we really have to assess why are we letting this continue to go on?
yeah. I love that you said that. And to everybody watching, you
Mhm.
are not a failure. If you stand up for yourself and do what is right for you in your business and you say no to the client or whatever you have to say, you are not a failure. And Shannon and I support you.
Yes. Yes. Do what you have to. Like, even if you're afraid, like, just do it. Get the
Yeah.
support of another pet sitter, the groups, anybody. If you know me, call me. I'll talk you
Yep.
through it. I've
Yep.
mentored other sitters and they call me and I say, I'm gonna help you say no. I'm gonna help you get out of this because it is not it's not worth it.
Yep. That's great. That's great. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for sharing this story with us. This was great. I mean, there was a lot of lessons to pull from this. We could keep pulling it apart, but tell
Yeah.
me about what you do with the Florida Pet Services Association. I know that y'all have a very exciting summit coming up in Tampa this August that I am very stoked to be attending. Get to hang out
Okay.
with you, get to hang out with Savannah and Amber, and everybody else is going to be there. It's going to be awesome. Tell us about it.
So yeah, as vice president, I organize all our regional directors around the state. So if you would like to join a network that's near you, get in touch. But as
I'm the
far as the
regional
summit,
director for Northeast Florida. We have a private Facebook group
yes.
that I will link down in the description below. If you're in the
Hmm.
Jacksonville, like St. Augustine, Fernandina Beach area, you can join my
Hmm.
group. And there's multiple other groups from around the state. So sorry to interrupt you,
Yes, and we're very
Shannon.
welcoming. Collaboration over competition is what we
Yes.
say. And even if you're not super close, to one of our regional directors, maybe you can attend every once in a while. And sometimes we also do Zoom get-togethers. So there's that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the summit, we're super excited with. It's going to be in Tampa, Florida this year. Pirate theme. Okay, all right, we're bringing our
Arr.
little it's going to be Thursday, August 21st through Saturday, the 23rd. And we have a great lineup of speakers to help you grow your business. If you're solo, if you're new, if you have teams, we have a little something for everybody, along with the networking and the friendship that is really my favorite. I love the
Yeah.
learning and we just have like the best time. We go out to dinners afterwards and hang out, maybe some beach time.
Yeah.
So I always say that my pet business friends are the best friends to
Yep.
have.
Yep.
So,
It's
and if
always a
anybody,
blast at the conferences. We get
yeah,
we get rowdy in the evenings. It's a
you can see
blast.
me
I love
huffing. I'm like, yes, I'm excited.
it.
We're so excited. So we're working really hard on that. And all the speakers are actually being announced this week. So that's going out.
Exciting.
So they're rolling out on our socials right now. And if anybody's interested, early bird tickets are on sale through the end of this month through March. And you can go to our website at floridapetassociation.org, which is flpetassociation.org, and find out more, or find us on Facebook. And we have a group and we have a page. You'll find us.
Nice. I'll put all of the links down in the description below. And if you're watching this after the end of March, tickets probably are still available. It's just that early bird, a special deal is through the end of March. This is 2025. Don't know when y'all are watching this.
Yeah.
Um, one thing that I am really excited about for this year's summit is that it's at a humane society. So in our breaks between sessions or in the early mornings and the evenings, we can hang out with some dogs and help and give back to the community. And
Yes.
those dogs need walks, they need volunteers, and we'll be able to do some of that while we're there for the conference. I think that's
It's
really
I'm
special.
so excited for that too. The Humane Society of Tampa is has a beautiful new building, and they've been so gracious to let us come and hold our conference there. And we are organizing maybe some dog walking in the mornings before the
Nice.
sessions start, and some stuff. And they'll also be speaking with us on how we can help and give back to our local shelters. So it's going to be really special, like you said, with the location we chose this year. We're really excited for it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm excited. So that's in August. I'll put all of the links down below so everybody can get their ticket. And Shannon, as we wrap up, tell us where people can learn more about you and get in contact with you.
Oh, sure. All my socials are Ocala Pet Sitting, Ocala. You're going to put it on there.
Yep.
I find a lot of people can't say Ocala, so I'm used to spelling it. So Ocala Pet Sitting, and my name's Shannon Hendon. And friend me, say hi to me. I'm very friendly, and I will talk to anybody in the pet industry. Right?
You always light up the room, Shannon. You always leave me smiling and laughing, and I just can't thank you enough for being you.
Thanks, Doug. You're the dog guy. I'll be the cat lady, right?
There we go. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your story. I can't wait to see you in August. And with that, I'm Doug the Dog Guy. That's Shannon Hendon, and we are reminding you to stay positive.